December 19th. I'm Rim.
And I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, we talk a bit about what makes good board games good and fun board games fun.
Let's do this.
So despite the fact that the computer sitting next to my computer, the one I do the podcast on, the computer that is, 1 gigahertz, that is old as hell, barely functions, has no case fans. In fact, the only fan in the entire case that's spinning is the CPU fan, which periodically stops spinning.
A computer's no good.
Yet, that computer is noticeably and significantly faster and better performing than the fastest computer in our house.
I think there's just something wrong. While the CPU in that computer is the fastest CPU in our house that is currently active. Actually, it's the fastest CPU in the house, period. Well, I don't know. Maybe the Wii is faster. I'm
no,
not sure.
The Wii is not faster than this.
Well, who knows?
A Sempron 2500 Plus?
Yeah, anyway, the Sempron 2500 Plus is in a $20 motherboard.
Now, I don't see any reasonable situation or circumstance that would cause a CPU that happens to be in a cheap motherboard as opposed to a good motherboard to max out at 100% when I do such complex tasks as clicking on a link in Firefox, moving a mouse in Firefox, looking at Firefox, or loading a web page in Firefox.
It is also a CPU that was damaged by heat at least
now,
once.
Again, heat damage to a CPU would generally not cause that type of problem.
I'm just saying is that there are many, many hidden factors far beyond our vision that could be causing this problem.
I don't know. I got a plan if I ever have time. I want to build a Gen 2 on it and see if there's a software issue or a hardware issue.
My guess is that it's a combination software-hardware issue where because it is a $20 motherboard, the software does things in such a way and the $20 motherboard
actually,
craps out.
What I would blame, I hate to say this, but I might blame Ubuntu. Now here's why.
Ubuntu.
Remember, we tried to install Edgy on this computer, and it totally bit the bullet and fucked up. So we had
because the motherboard's $20.
Yeah. So we installed the older Ubuntu. Dapper Drake.
Mm-hmm.
And then we upgraded to Edgy.
Mm-hmm.
I would wager that upgrading to Edgy brought with it a bunch of performance problems, the same likes of which we saw when we tried to originally install Edgy.
But if you think those... the problems we had when we tried to originally install Edgy
were that it was slow as hell installing and then would crap out, which is the same thing that this PC is doing now randomly and periodically.
But that's totally unrelated. That has nothing to do with it, because the live CD of Edgy was not slow.
Yeah, it was.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was. The Edgy live CD barely booted and maxed out the CPU.
And anyway,
the Dapper CD is what I use to do anything on the box.
If that is the case, that, for some reason Edgy is slow, Edgy is not slow on my computer. Therefore, it's not a problem with Edgy. It is, as I said, a combination of Edgy and the $20 motherboard.
It is a problem with Edgy not supporting a otherwise generally standard motherboard.
A $20 shitty-ass motherboard.
A $20 motherboard should work.
You get what you fucking pay for.
I mean what you paid for.
That's right.
Good job.
Hey, we wanted it to be as cheap as possible. That's what we got. It works.
No, it doesn't. It's useless.
It works. You should be happy that a $20 motherboard even works.
Oh, no, the motherboard works, but the PC is useless.
It was $20. You can't complain.
I'd rather have the $20 than the computer sitting here now.
What the fuck? For $20, what better computer are you going to get? That's the best computer you can get in the whole world for $20.
It wouldn't be worth it. It doesn't work.
It works just fine.
No,
You're browsing the web on
No,
it.
I'm not. Firefox has crashed. It's just sitting there because the page that I want to do my news from is still open.
It's not crashed.
If I try to move between tabs, it'll sit there for like 5 minutes.
It won't sit there for 5 minutes.
Yeah, it will.
No, it won't.
Anyway.
That's so hyperbole.
No. All right, any of our listeners who live near us, come over and I'll show you this shit piece of a computer.
It's just the slightest bit of slowness upsets me.
Slightest bit of slowness. It's less than a quarter as fast at encoding MP3s or processing WAV files as my crap-ass 7-year-old barely functioning computer.
$20 motherboard.
Yeah.
What
Anyway, what do you got in the news? This isn't Tech Day, and I imagine a lot of our listeners have no idea what we're talking about.
Right. So, today, after a long period of waiting, the Wii Weather channel is available and working for free. And you know what? It's not so exciting.
Well, it's exactly what I expected. It's not supposed to be exciting.
Well, I mean, it's like you sit there and you have this Wii, and it says Weather Channel coming soon, and you're like, ooh, I can't wait for the Weather Channel to be available. Finally, here it is, the Weather Channel. And you go and you look at it, and it's just the fucking weather. It takes you about like 5 minutes, and you go, ooh, look, I can spin the globe around. I can see the weather in Antarctica, and that's fun once. And now you have the weather.
The purpose of it is to be able to easily look at the weather on your TV.
And that it does, well,
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to find out what the current weather is, not so useful because, like, I looked at it just now at 6 p.m., and it gave me the current weather in Poughkeepsie from 6 a.m. So that wasn't too helpful. But the 5-day forecast was kind of useful. I was like, hey,
Well,
it's gonna be rainy and snowy on Saturday.
Really? Because the NOAA doesn't say that at all.
Let me go see.
Because I looked at the NOAA this morning for Yonkers, which is close to here, and it said it was going to be warm all weekend.
No, the NOAA agrees. Saturday, 60% rain likely.
Huh. Because this morning I looked at Yonkers, it said sunny all weekend.
The weather in Yonkers is not the weather in Beacon and Poughkeepsie.
Huh?
It's a different place.
Except it's real close.
It is. It's pretty close.
We'll see if it actually rains, though.
We'll see. It's 60% chance. So I'll bet you.
I thought you didn't bet unless it was a sure deal.
It's a sure deal if I bet on 6-4 odds.
No, it's not. 6-4. That means that there's a chance that the 4 odds will win. There's a 40% chance that you'll lose. It's not a sure thing. I don't know what definition of sure thing you're trying to use.
It's sure
here.
enough because the bet is exactly the same as the odds.
That logic does not follow. The gains of a bet and the chance of winning the bet are not. They're completely separate things.
Whatever.
By that I'm not going to get into what that logic entails.
Yeah, but no, the Weather Channel. I mean, you're gonna look at it right away because it's something new and interesting to do on the Wii. And the channels are the most fun part of the Wii. But the Weather Channel is not going to be. It's not the entertainment channel. It's you're going to go there maybe once in a while to see what the weather is.
Yeah, I don't know what. That's exactly what I expected it to be. I figured if we had people over and hey, Rim, let's climb the mountain tomorrow. What's the weather going to be like? I'd go, hey, Wii, what's the weather going to be? And the Wii would turn to me and say, it's going to be sunny, Rim. We're going to climb that mountain. And I would say, see. And that is pretty much the maximum enjoyment I expected to get out of that.
That's about all you're going to get because the only other thing it can do is has a globe that you can spin around and check the weather in different parts of the world.
You sound so disappointed, like you expected more.
Yeah.
What did you expect? What did you think was going to come?
I wanted to have that globe part be a little more interesting.
How so?
I don't know. Have like little pictures of ice climbers in the Himalayas that I could find, like a secret.
How do you know they're not there? You just didn't look hard enough.
I did. I looked. I zoomed in all the way.
You're telling me that you actually sat there and looked at all the pixels in the Himalayas.
You really can't zoom in that far, so it didn't take very long.
They might be tiny.
Do you want to look?
You might have to click on something special.
Why don't you go look? Why don't you zoom in on Canada and see if there's any ice hockey players?
Do you even know where the Himalayas are?
Yeah, they're in Tibet.
Okay.
Yeah, I know where that shit is. You know what? I did learn one thing from Google, not Google, Wii Weather.
Okay, what?
I learned that Easter Island is. I didn't actually know where it was. Like, I thought I knew, but I was wrong. Now I know where Easter Island is.
So we can go there.
Do you want to go there?
Not really.
No, not. Now that I know where it is, I kind of don't want to go. Like where I thought before it was closer to Europe, but now that I realize it's to the west of South America, so screw that. The other news that's more interesting is we finally have confirmation on the deal with the Opera browser for the Wii.
It's coming.
It's coming on Friday. Well, first of all, Opera put out this cute little comic with a little red ninja to tell us all about it, and a spider. It's pretty cool. But on Friday, as in this Friday, the 22nd, there's going to be a free trial version of Opera browser for Wii available. It's not going to be the full version. It's going to be like the beta version. But it's going to be free to anyone with a Wii. So
is that implying that the final version is going to be non-free?
They didn't say, like, the final version is going to cost money.
Because but
they didn't say the final version is free. They said this version is a free beta available Friday. I suppose that it'll be lacking features that you're going to want, probably.
Yeah, like...
And I suppose that
like
it
the
might...
ability to follow links or view images.
I suppose that it will have some bugs, if that might get updated over time.
Crashes immediately if you click on anything.
And, yeah, that's what I'm supposing. In the spring, they say it in this little comic, that it says, my ninja sense says spring. In the spring, the full version is supposedly going to come out. And we can only assume, logically, that it will not be free. But it will probably be free of bugs, and it'll have all the features. It just will cost monies.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is actually kind of good, because if they just put out the Opera browser and said, here, pay money for it, it's a tough call who would buy it and who wouldn't. If they just put it out for free, well, then they're not making any money off of that, so it's not good for them. This way, people who are early adopters of the Wii can get the browser and try it out and solve the bugs and all that good stuff. And if we decide that we like it a lot, if I keep using that browser a lot on the Wii, then I'm probably going to shell out and pay for the full version when it comes out. But if I don't use it so much, then I'm not going to pay for the full version.
The way I look at it, being geeks, we have a Mac Mini already plugged into the TV, and we can now pretty much, and is getting better by the day, use our Wiimotes with that Mac Mini.
Yeah, that is good. However, the Opera Wii browser is specially designed to work with the Wii and is much easier to navigate with the Wiimote than the Firefox Mac with its tiny buttons.
Yeah, but we'll see if the money versus usefulness ratio is in the proper level.
Yeah, I mean, I'll pay... that's the other thing. It's great because I'll be able to figure out through the coming months, I got 3 or 4 months here to decide how much it's worth to me to pay for that Opera browser. So when it finally comes out in the spring, I'll say, you're charging too much, you're charging not enough.
I really am much more looking forward to the Opera browser for the DS, which I've been waiting for on a daily basis, and it's not here yet.
I don't really need that because I'm getting a new phone soon, and Opera for phones is free and awesome. I have it on my BlackBerry.
I don't see myself getting a good phone anytime in the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Honestly, I would just get a PDA phone, a non-smartphone, except I don't want to carry 2 things around anymore. So I
carry my DS anyway.
Yeah. I don't actually carry my DS unless I have my backpack with me.
Well, I always carry my DS.
I carry my phone in my pocket.
Because I play games a lot, so when I'm sitting around I have nothing to do, I play video games.
Yeah. My DS is only in my backpack for less frequent use.
Plus, I got a bunch of new DS games to play.
You did. That's right.
Yeah.
I still have to go to the store and get the Metal Slug. What the hell?
Yeah. I'll have words about Portrait of Ruin in the coming weeks after I beat it.
And then I'll have to play it, I guess.
Yeah, I like it. A lot of internet people have expressed somewhat negative opinions toward it.
Well, you like them Castlevanias, so...
Yeah, I like them okay. The thing is, I like what new Castlevanias are, but I don't like them as much as I liked old Castlevanias.
Castlevania 1!
Nah, Castlevania 1 was kind of a bit shit.
Castlevania 1!
My favorite Castlevania ever is still 2. My second
actually, I like Castlevania 1 the most just because of the way it is, but to be honest, I think Super Castlevania 4, is the best one.
It was alright, I liked it okay.
And of course, everyone is going, what the fuck's wrong with you, Symphony of the Night, what the fuck?
You realize when Symphony of the Night came out is when people like us had abandoned console gaming forever as far as we were concerned.
Yep. But Symphony of the Night is the first one that is like the ones we're playing now in the GBA and the DS, But, hey, what you gonna do?
Well, I'm going to keep playing Castlevania until I kill Dracula again.
Are you sure it's Dracula this time?
They keep talking about Dracula so far. There's these vampire girls, and there's Death, and Death comes back, and he's like, I serve Dracula, and the young anime...
Why would Death, the Grim Reaper, serve Dracula, who seems so much lesser than Death itself?
You realize that Dracula is not just Dracula the vampire in these games. Dracula is the embodiment of all that is black and evil. He is the Dark Lord. The way you can look at it is that Dracula was the last Dark Lord to be around, or the Dark Lord essence took over Dracula, or something like that. And whenever bad things are about to go down, Dracula's castle suddenly reappears. And then
There's no Satan. There's no one worse than Dracula. There's no Cthulhu.
No, pretty much. You played Dawn of Sorrow. How there's that one guy who summons... Yeah, whatever.
Whatever.
No, not Aria of... DS.
Yeah.
DS. I don't know where you get A from.
No, that's right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where that guy who comes right away, one of the sub bosses, summons Cthulhu and then kills him. Pretty much right there. Then Cthulhu is just this minor monster you run into all the time.
Yep.
So it's pretty much Dracula's it.
It makes no sense.
But it's
to
funny
me.
because you run into Death, and the main character guy is like, "Oh shit, it's Death. We're gonna have to fight him." And Death's like, "I'll kick your ass, you nub." And then Death's like, "Blah blah blah, Dracula," and the kid goes, "But Dracula's not here. This other guy's in charge of Dracula's castle." And Death's like, "What? I think I've been asleep too long. I better go look into this." So I'm waiting to see what happens with all that. I haven't gotten very far in the game yet.
You know who's in charge of Dracula's castle? Dracul.
Or Drock.
Or Alucard.
Alucard is my man.
All right.
All right, so in the much more stupid news, there's been the whole issue with people breaking the straps on their Wiimotes, which I will sum up simply as, if you ever break the strap on your Wiimote, you are not using your Wiimote properly.
There's a video of a guy who he takes a Wiimote strap and he puts weights on it until it breaks, and he basically couldn't break it with a lot of weight. And he tried to swing it and let go of it on purpose until the strap broke. He had to swing it so monstrously hard for it to break. Good God.
Now, one, the worst thing is that people seem to be letting go of the Wiimote on purpose because they seem to think that that's what the wrist strap is for. And no, the wrist strap is for if you, on occasion, like once every 5 years, happen to drop your Wiimote. And even then, if you drop your Wiimote, you're just as stupid. How could you possibly let go of a video game controller while you're using it?
You just ate some fried chicken.
But you realize that if one of my friends came over when I was a kid and his hands were greasy and he even looked like he was going to get near one of my controllers, I would beat him.
Yep. Most people are disgusting.
Those people, anyone who came near me with greasy hands, if I had something like a video game, would be kicked out of my house.
Yep.
In fact, I did kick a kid out of my house once because I caught him playing my Nintendo with greasy fingers.
Oh.
I washed that thing with alcohol and as a result ruined it.
Oh.
But no, not Nintendo, is doing the right thing, and by the right thing meaning the good PR thing, and they're allowing anyone who feels they have a concern to ask for a stronger Wii strap.
You can get from 1 to 4 replacement stronger Wii straps. I think I'm going to ask for them because, hey, free Wii straps. Why not?
See, the thing is, one, I'm thinking of taking the Wii strap off of my Wiimote and putting it on my DS. And then I'm not going to have a strap on my Wiimote because I have manual dexterity. My dex is higher than 7. I won't drop the Wiimote.
See, the only reason I don't do that is because I actually, regardless of the protection the Wii strap provides, I kind of like how it feels.
It only feels good to me because if I don't put it on, I've got this strap hanging down, bumping against my wrist.
Even if I took the strap off, I still feel like it's kind of like getting in the car without a seatbelt. It doesn't feel right. Even if the car didn't beep at you and say, "Hey, put your fucking seatbelt on."
My car doesn't beep at me.
My car, if you don't put the seatbelt on, it's like, "Hey, put your fucking seatbelt on, bitch." Like I took it off for a second once while I was driving to reach over and grab something, and it was like, oh my god, beep 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 beep, and I'm like, shut the fuck up, car, shut the fuck up. I'm putting it back on. God damn it. No, but even if I take the Wii strap off the Wiimote, it still feels like I'm not wearing my seatbelt.
See, you could have the same. Get one of those Lance Armstrong band things, stick it around your wrist, and then go.
That would probably work, but why bother? It's so much easier to just use the stupid strap, which is already there.
No, because every time you want to pick up the controller, you got to put that strap on.
That's fine.
I like to plop down and immediately game, and then when I'm done gaming, I immediately stand up and hit power.
It doesn't take me that long to do it.
Hey, that's 8 seconds you're never getting back.
It's not 8. It doesn't even take 8 seconds.
You can't take 8 seconds. Things of the day! But before the things of the day, I got a little overzealous there and queued up the things of the day before I actually talked about the news.
Good job.
So, real briefly, the news is that Green Welling LLP has filed a class action lawsuit against Nintendo over the quote-unquote faulty Wii straps and the injuries they have caused and the property damage they have caused, and how it's so negligent of Nintendo.
I think they're gonna lose. End of story.
Maybe the fact that Nintendo warns every step of the way. Anytime you try to do anything with the Wii, it reminds you, hey, don't forget to put the thing on. Be careful. Don't drop it.
Yeah, they've pretty much done everything they possibly can to avoid any sort of lawsuit. These guys are just walking into a death trap. a legal death trap, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, Nintendo doesn't dick around when people forget that back in the day, Nintendo was on the receiving end of a very massive antitrust
Well, they
suit.
were also, first they were on the giving end. Nintendo basically got ahead by a lawsuit. And then they got on the receiving end of a lawsuit.
Yeah, people always forget that there was a time when Nintendo was a monopoly. They were considered a video game monopoly, and the government was trying to break them up.
Yep.
But yeah, this company has no chance. And the fact that the picture here on Kotaku is of Phoenix Wright says it all.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to things of the day. Once again, I have a very simple one. There's not much that can be said about it. Other than that, the title here is The Piddler on the Roof. Now, this does not refer to the opening scene of Rainy Dog. See, now, if you'd come up with funny lyrics that involved pee, then that would have been gold. Too late. The moment's gone.
Okay.
So, I think I'll have to read the fact that these kids put a penis, they drew a penis on the roof of a school, which was then captured from space by satellites and is now on the internet, clearly visible.
Heroes they are.
Yes, gods among men. But the caption on this picture is, balls up, Willie on roof of Posh Yarm School as seen from space.
Did someone I don't know, did the school dress up as a DS for Halloween or something? What happened?
Just the fact that, think about the society that we live in. You are all listening to a podcast, and we're all talking about, or you're listening to us talk about, the fact that somewhere in the world, a bunch of people much like us drew a giant member on top of a school. A member that was then seen from space. That picture was then beamed back to the Earth where people like us can watch it, view it, comment on it, talk about it, and save it forever.
And laugh at it.
We are gods compared to the vast majority of human history if this is what we do with our lives.
Yeah.
I mean, try explaining what we are doing right now to someone from ancient Greece. Yes, you see, that penis that those kids drew on top of the Parthenon? Well, here's a picture of it from space.
Oh my God.
So anyway, now the best part of this is that was not the only member that these kids put up during the weekend. To quote the article, they managed to get on the roof of the Friary building and somehow mark on the Willie. They also
penis on the Parthenon.
They also burnt a manhood into the grass. That is a quote. That is verbatim from the article. They burnt a manhood onto the grass.
I can't stop laughing.
Right. So you got to think of the day, Scott?
There was a penis on the Parthenon.
I didn't think it was that funny.
Maybe that's why all those Greek statues. It was just punk kids. They attached them on with clay.
Yeah.
And then they took pictures of them from space. And then they snuck them into museums and fooled everyone into thinking they were works of art.
See, people always thought that Zeus would come down and yell at people or seduce women. No, Zeus was coming down to tell the parents of kids that he had to deal with the fact that they're throwing penises on everything.
Yeah, because Zeus on fucking Mount Olympus, he looks down on the city and he says, "What the hell is that? Someone drew a fucking penis on the top of the roof. What the hell? Oh. How'd they do that? Was that you, Hermes?"
I think you're forgetting that they also burnt a manhood into the grass. Now, Zeus could take care of that easily with his lightning.
Okay.
Now, I think your thing of the day is going to pale in comparison, but come on out.
All right. So, my thing of the day is a short video from a Japanese TV show.
Oh, oui, oui.
Oh, oui, oui. Called Sanma Palace. And I don't know what the hell this show's about, and the clip is very short. But in the clip, they talk to voice actress Ikue Otani, who is the voice of Pikachu.
Now, I mean, we all are aware on an intellectual level that there aren't Pokemon, and that when you hear a Pokemon talking, it is actually a human being talking into a microphone. But seeing this done live by a real human borders on the frightening.
I mean, it's one thing to see someone at a convention come up to you and go, Pika Pika. It's like, all right, the person said Pika Pika. To hear someone say Pika Pika the way Pikachu says Pika Pika.
Exactly the way.
Like, that's it. She is Pikachu. It's like, oh God, it's like lightning in the brain.
Now, even
It's
better.
like burning a member on your front lawn.
Now, I gave Scott a list of the other roles that this woman has had.
Well, there are really only two of them that are interesting. First of all,
Well, Pikachu.
Second of all, not only is she Pikachu, she's Pikachu in everywhere Pikachu appears.
Including
in
Smash
Pokemon
Brothers.
Puzzle League, she's Pikachu. In Pokemon Pinball, she's Pikachu. In Smash Brothers, she's Pikachu. Anywhere Pikachu's voice appears, this lady did it. Now, you might know the cartoon Animaniacs. Well, it aired in Japan, and Dot Warner was voiced by the same lady who did Pikachu.
Not only that, but in the Japanese dub of Full House.
Yes, Full House.
Yes.
The same that you saw.
The
in
very same.
The same. Who was she?
Some character. I don't know. I hated that show.
I also did.
I used to watch it. I don't know why. I really don't know why.
She
to this
was
day.
Stephanie Tanner.
Even to this day, I think back and I remember the times when I would watch Full House.
I never actually watched Full House. I watched the shows after it.
Now, I'll say this, that I can't register any emotion from that period in my life.
I remember the closer of Full House because I would turn on the TV as the closer was going, and I would watch the shows that followed.
I remember watching that other thing where Bob Saget and the other guy, they'd always say, "Cut it out." What was that?
I have no idea.
Because I'm doing it right now. Cut
I know
it
you're
out.
always doing.
I'm doing that all the time. Because when I was a little kid, I practiced hard until I could do it without thinking. Because it's a simple thing to do, but it's kind of like a magic spell. You got to be able to move your fingers just right, or it loses the effects.
Yeah, but
Of course, the effect is getting myself beat up.
Yeah. So, what's the show about today?
Well, after killing all that time talking about penises.
Penis on the Parthenon. Good God.
Yeah. We decided we'd talk a little bit about board games.
Hooray!
Because it's been a while.
It has been a while. We haven't played too many board games lately. At least we haven't played any new ones.
Well,
even though, here's something for everybody. I discovered a video podcast called Board Games with Scott. Now, I had heard of it, and it's not me, Scott. It's some other guy named Scott who's a little bit nerdy, but he's cool. I heard of this thing before, but I never went to watch it. I actually thought it was an audio podcast, so I just kind of, didn't have time for it. It's actually a video podcast, and the guy takes board games out and teaches you the rules and everything. And it's pretty cool, like, to go there and see some of these games that he demonstrates. Like, if you think Die Mocker is complicated, go watch this guy named Scott demonstrate Die
And you'll
Mocker.
still think it's complicated, because that game is complicated.
Yeah, but he does a lot of, like, really new games that you probably can't get yet very easily unless you're all savvy buying it online or anything like that. So it's cool to see how these games work step by step and everything. So, Board Games with Scott. Go check it out.
Yeah, but see, once the Wii came out, pretty much we were playing Resident Evil 4. Press A! Press A!
And I beat it the day before the Wii came out.
And
Because if I didn't beat it before the Wii came out, I was never going to beat it.
We crammed in as much board gaming and video gaming as we could in, knowing that the moment the Wii came out, that was the end.
It was the end.
And it was the end.
We don't even really watch Netflix enough.
We don't do anything now. Until now that the Wii is awesome still, but it's not the ever-present driving force in our lives every waking moment. We've started doing other things. And this weekend, when we had planned to work on the show, because we got all that swag and swag coming, and we were going to work on it. But then Alex came over, and instead of doing that, we played Puerto Rico, and then we played Kalis twice.
Yep, and those are all games that we've played and talked about before.
Yeah, Puerto Rico and Kalis are hard board games, as in real deal completely, I don't know.
Those are man's games. It's sort of like if you want to read Gekiga manga.
No, remember, we're not talking man in like the sexist man versus woman. We're talking man in the Gekiga Hojo standing there with a gun.
Exactly.
I mean, a woman can be that manly.
Gekiga is to manga as these board games are to other board games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a woman can be just as manly as a man when it comes to that. It has nothing to do with gender. It is a special use of the word man.
Yes.
Anyway, now I would like to mention the fact,
It's masculine. How's that?
but that specifically,
Okay, enough silliness.
well, regardless of all that, I'll note that I won every single game we played that weekend.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I just had to bring that up because Scott talked a big. See, it's no big deal to win a board game because everyone in the crew is really smart, and when we play board games, it's always a really tough fight. But I won the first game of Kalis by a bit, and Scott was like, "I'll win next time. I was distracted." Blah 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 blah.
Well,
blah,
I lost
blah, blah.
terribly because in the early turns, I hadn't played Kalis in a while. I had forgotten most of the rules and some very important rules, and I screwed up big time.
Despite the fact that Alex, who has played until this weekend, had played Kalis twice in his life, remembered every single rule and did fine. In fact, did better than Scott.
Well, because he remembered all the rules, and I didn't.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how you didn't. It wasn't that you were forgotten rules.
I don't remember shit I did yesterday.
But that's irrelevant. I was just bragging because I won these games, and in our crew, that means a lot.
Yeah.
Next weekend, I'll probably lose every game.
Anyway, today we're going to talk about what makes a board game good.
Yeah, I mean, we own a lot of board games, and we have played a freaking lot of board games. But despite owning all these games, all of which we enjoyed when we played them, there's only a select handful that have staying power that we continue to play on a regular basis without ever growing tired of them.
Mm-hmm. And, once you play a lot of board games, most people, you just play Monopoly, Scrabble, Sorry, whatever. It's something to do to pass the time with friends, and it's really just sort of like, something to do with your hands while you have conversation and drink or whatever you're doing, or hang out with your family. When you play board games for the sake of playing them, you begin to notice a few things. Like, that board game won't be fun to ever play again because of X, Y, and Z. Or, this board game will always be fun. Or, that one's not fun, but it's a damn good game, etc., etc.
So I guess hence the best way to categorize this is simply that when we talk about board games being good, there are really two completely distinct but non-mutually exclusive categories. To break things down into very simple terms, there are games that are pure and good, that are purely good games, that they are, on some abstract or real level, a very well-constructed game that covered all the bases.
Yeah, we're only talking about the rules here, not like the pieces and all that stuff.
Yeah, because none of that matters. We're talking about the actual raw game mechanics.
Yes.
And on the opposite end of the spectrum, there are games that are fun. Now, I said that these are not mutually exclusive. There are games that are not good games that are incredibly fun. There are games that are not fun at all that are very good games.
Yep. And there are games that are good and fun. And there are games that are not good and not fun. You can mix it up any way you want because totally different factors influence each thing. However, if you are like us and you are the kind of person who enjoys a good game, then good games will be at least a little fun, even though they can also be terrible.
Yep. And the best way to know if a game is good, because you can't really know upon first playings or even a bunch of playings, any game, how good it truly is in terms of staying power. Because almost any board game, no matter how bad it is fun at least once or twice.
Yeah. Well, the reason a board game is fun at least once is because I think, personally, it's fun to read the rules and to look at all these new pieces and boards and to see how they work. Just seeing a new game unfold and learning about it and opening the box and whatever, that in itself is fun for me. So any board game in the world has that amount of fun in it already.
Yeah, I mean, that moment
even
of realization.
Hellas, even Hellas.
Like any complex game where you're reading through the rules and it's tough and you're not understanding, and then there's always that moment of revelation in a complex game where it clicks and like you learn about one more game mechanic and suddenly you understand on a high level how the game works. Like, oh, it's a bidding game, or oh, it's a cube manipulation game, or like, oh, it's that kind of game. And that all those moments really they're a good experience.
Yep.
I think just as important is that the first few times you play a game, it's a novel experience. Everyone's on equal playing field, usually, because no one else has played the game before.
Unless you're having someone who's mad experienced teach you the game.
Yeah, but then they get their own unique experience of watching people who have never played the game before play it.
Yep.
But just any game, no matter how bad it is always novel the first time you play it. You don't know what strategy is going to win.
I mean, if you've never played Pop-O-Matic Trouble before, it's fun to hit that Pop-O-Matic bubble in the middle.
Especially when you figure out how to make it always give you a 6.
Especially when you're 3 years old. And
That
you
too.
get to be green.
See, when I was a little kid, I always thought that Headache was a much better game than Trouble.
I don't know what Headache is.
Headache was the one that looked very much like Trouble, but you had little coney guys instead, and you could like capture other people's coney guys by jumping on top of them. And
Okay. We usually played Sorry more than we played Trouble, just because our Trouble sucked.
I used to complain. My family always wanted to play Sorry, but they'd get mad if I played optimally. Like
I played Sorry optimally. Everyone played Sorry optimally.
No, when I was
we
a
were freaking
kid,
getting on those sliders, knocking each other off the board. It was crazy.
if I was in second place and I used my Sorry troubles to screw over like my dad if he was winning, my family would be all like, "Hey, you're just preventing him from winning, so you can win." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I'm doing."
That's the point.
Yeah.
When I'm just supposed to play randomly, then what's the point? Okay.
Well, Luke always made that argument.
Well, that's just because he wanted to win. And
True,
that
true,
was
true.
part of his way of winning,
Yeah.
was to act like he wasn't trying to win and convince you not to try to win. Therefore, he would win because he
Yeah.
would be the only one trying.
My strategies are much more devious, and I trick other people
And
into
much more subtle. Yeah.
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 Anyway, forgot where I was going with that train of thought, so I'll just continue.
Yep.
But once you've played a game a bunch of times and you've figured out all the game's basic tricks, like you become an intermediate player of the game, you're no longer a beginner, you're no longer learning about the game on any fundamental level, that's the point at which you can judge if a game is truly good or not. Because that's the point where you realize, like you can visualize, would this game still be fun if I figure out the number of bids I should make in the first round? Because once I figure that out, maybe there's no game anymore.
Well, there's some good examples. For Puerto Rico, which we just talked about, right? We've played that game 100 times, right?
Probably more than that.
Yeah. And, every turn you have to make some decisions because there's nothing in the game. There's no dice or anything. It's decisions. All you do is make decisions.
Yeah, I mean, literally, nothing is random in that game.
Nope. And every time you play the game, you have to make these same decisions. But I've played the game at least 50 to 100 times. I don't even freaking know anymore. And making the decisions doesn't get any easier. I don't just know the answers. You know what I mean? If you played, what was that game we played? Timbuktu?
Yeah, Timbuktu.
If you play that game once and you're an intelligent human being, if you play it again, you know exactly what move to make. You don't even have to think about it. You just know because it's like solving a crossword puzzle and then doing the same crossword puzzle again. You know the answer already. It's not fun anymore.
Yep, there are many board games that are solvable. Absolutely solvable, where if you figure out the game on a fundamental level, you have to make 0 decisions in the whole game. You know exactly what to do to either win or to have the absolute best chance of winning.
Yeah, and when that happens, the game's not fun anymore, and it's also not good.
Yep.
The best games are games in which, no matter how much you know, you still have to do thinking in order to win. I mean, sometimes the games are such that you could possibly reach that level, but it's so complex that it's difficult for a human to do so, like chess.
Or Tigris and Euphrates.
Yeah. But sometimes games is just not possible at all to ever solve it.
Let's break it down let's give an example of all the different, we got these 4 corners here. A game that is not good and not fun, which would be Hellas.
Yep.
Hellas is not a good game. It is not a fun game. The rules are written poorly. The game is basically unplayable. We have never played the game without running into an unanswerable rules question that prevented further play.
Another example would be Monopoly. Monopoly is not good. Whoever wins comes down to dice. Why even play?
And it also
it's not
isn't
fun because you've got to play forever, and it doesn't matter anymore.
See, I will point out, Monopoly is fun for the first 10 minutes.
Yep.
And if you ever play Monopoly with your friends ever again, I suggest you right now, 1, play by the original rules of the game. None of that free parking BS. 2, the moment the game is not always fun anymore, the moment all the property is bought, you must immediately knock that board over and run away, possibly screaming while doing so.
Okay, let's have a game that's fun but not good.
I would say Citadels.
Citadels, you say?
Citadels is an incredibly fun game. I absolutely love playing it. But on a fundamental level, the basic tactics of the game break up into two categories. The first category is making the obvious optimal move. But build the right thing. Do the right thing. It's always obvious. And the second bit of tactics is very simply the Princess Bride conundrum. Which cup is the poison in? And the answer is you can't make a determination. So it ends up being totally random.
Well, I was going to say apples to apples because apples to apples as a game is just completely subjective. There's not even really a game there. But in terms of fun, it's like the most fun you're going to have.
I agree. I think both are good examples of that kind of game. A game that is very fun. I will play apples to apples anytime.
Mm-hmm.
I will play Citadels anytime. I love both games. But they are not good games. They're fun games, and I acknowledge this fact.
Mm-hmm. All right, what's a game that's good but not fun?
I want to say Die Mocker, but I haven't played it enough.
Yeah, I haven't played enough to know.
I played it once, and I lost, and I wasn't entirely sure what happened.
Wow.
Alex won, and we're sitting around. We're counting up the scores, right? The game had ended, and my brain hurt. We'd been playing this game for 4 hours, not counting the time it took us to learn how to play. Mm-hmm. And the game ended. And then we were reading, like we were following the rules and adding up scores, and we had no idea who had won. We had no way to know who was even close to winning. We just followed this complex Byzantine set of rules, at the end of which we determined that Alex was the winner. And he said, I don't know how I won. And I said, I don't know how I lost. And we put the game away, and that was the end of that.
Yeah, well...
He won by a lot, too.
Yeah, my example is going to be Go. Well, some people like Go, and they think it's fun. It might be fun for them, but it's not fun for me. But I recognize that it is an excellent game, perhaps one of the best games ever. It's not fun.
To make the same kind of point, Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico is fun, though.
No, to us. People, think about it. There are people who love Go, and to them, Go is fun. Puerto Rico is very fun to people like us. But to a lot of people... Puerto Rico is objectively an extremely good game. It is one of the best games ever made. It is an absolutely beautifully constructed game. Mm-hmm. But playing it is, to many people, somewhat tedious and very difficult. It is
difficult.
It is not intuitively fun
you
to
have
a lot
to
of
be
people.
Better at it in order for it to get the fun out of it, or else it's not as bad as Age of Steam. Age of Steam, there's a game that is good but not necessarily fun, because you can recognize that Age of Steam is a great train stock market game. However, if you're not good at it, the game just beats the freaking shit out of you, and it's hard, and that can often make it not fun. And that when you're not doing well, you actually end up going down the tubes.
See, now this is why, it comes down to subjectivity. And what we're talking about here mostly are...
Well, the fun part is more subjective. The good part is less subjective.
Well, yeah, but in terms of rating a game overall, because no matter how good a game is, almost no one will play a game that is not fun, no matter how good it is.
That's true.
And the fact that people like us find games fun that other people don't find fun and vice versa is the reason that Puerto Rico is very popular, but Monopoly is also popular.
Yep.
Even though Monopoly isn't good either.
All right, what's a game that's good and fun?
Tigris and Euphrates.
I was going to say that, you bastard.
I think Tigris and Euphrates is perhaps the best example of that I've ever encountered.
Kalis is good and fun.
Kalis is very much good and fun.
I haven't played it yet, but I have a feeling that Thurn and Taxis, the latest Spiel des Jahres, is good and fun. I just got a feeling.
See, I always tell people ask me a lot, especially at conventions, what my favorite board game is. And I always say... Puerto Rico is the best board game, but Tigris and Euphrates is my favorite.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, it's hard to quantify why. I could do a whole show on why I think that Tigris and Euphrates is the most fun game.
Well, we'll do it eventually.
Well, we've talked about Tigris and Euphrates.
We have,
and we've talked about Puerto Rico. I think.
All right, so
have we?
I'm pretty sure.
We've done like 240 episodes. We'd better have.
Someone go look it up. We've only done like 50-something episodes on games, though.
I think we've done 58.
Yeah, something like that. All right.
59 now.
So what is it that makes a game good? Like, there are identifiable factors, and I thought of a bunch of them.
Yeah, we can't go into too much detail or we're going to have a long episode.
All right. Well, first is lack of randomness makes a game good. If a game is random, like it's just a game of chance, roll a die, see who wins, that makes a game not as good. I mean, sometimes you can have randomness, and it won't suck.
And remember, the biggest thing is how much of a factor is the randomness, and at what point is the randomness inserted. A lot of good games and great games need randomness, or else the game is deterministic, where you could figure out, if I go first, then I must do this, and then I'm most likely going to win.
Yep. For example, Puerto Rico is random in which plantations will be available. That's completely random.
Yep, and you can buy a building, in fact, that introduces even more randomness into you personally by allowing you to draw a plantation tile sight unseen.
Yep, but...
Kalis injects randomness in the very beginning by... you draw the 6 pink tiles and you put them in a random order. And that order really has a huge effect on how the game will turn out.
It does, but it doesn't actually have an effect on who's going to win. It just makes this time you're playing Kalis different from the last time you played Kalis.
Which is important. That's one of the biggest factors in making the game fun.
Yep, because if it was the same order every time, then Kalis would be the same game every time, but eventually would get stale.
There is the Bevagung factor, or analysis paralysis.
Yes. Many games, here's an example, famously Acquire.
Scott Johnson.
Acquire is a game where if you sit on your turn and you just look at the game and do calculations of every possible move that you can make, you will eventually figure out the best possible move, period, that you can make. It's not hard to figure it out. It just takes some time. If a game is designed in that way, where you can sit there, think, and eventually come up with the best move in your head, then it's kind of boring because everyone sits there and does the best possible move, and it takes forever.
Some notable games that suffer from this are obviously Acquire, Risk to a degree. You can calculate statistics forever.
Yep.
El Grande is huge for this. And that was one of the early board games beyond Settlers that we really got into, and I kind of want to play it again, but that is definitely a game if you can sit there and calculate the exact odds of everything.
Yeah, you figure out exactly how many cubes to put where, and then you're done.
And I'm worried that Kalis, to a lesser degree, has this problem, because the last time we played Kalis, I spent an extra 30 seconds every turn thinking, and that had a profound effect on my strategy, surprisingly.
Yep.
Like, more surprisingly to me, because I didn't expect, usually in a game, like Tigers and Euphrates, you can think and think and think, and there's a point at which you have exhausted all of the thinking you can do and still have an appreciable effect on your strategy. But Kalis, the more I thought, the more I could optimize my turn, and I wonder if I'll be able to optimize my turn completely within a reasonable span of, say, 30 to 45 seconds. Because if I can, that changes the way I play Kalis. And if I can't, but I could within 5 minutes, that almost breaks Kalis.
Yep. All right, what's another good factor that makes a game good?
I thought you had a whole bunch.
I did. We already talked about, let's see.
All right, one that we can't explain in detail. We'll have to do a whole show on this because we need to talk a lot about game theory first. But a game that introduces tactical decision-making that is not arbitrary.
Yeah.
The less arbitrariness there is, and the more tactical, direct decision-making there is, and the more weighted decision-making there is, and the more utility decision-making there is. I'm throwing out a lot of barely comprehensible terms that mean very specific and alternating things, so...
Yeah.
Game theory. If a game is sound as per the tenets of good game theory.
I'm sure that helps everybody out there.
Yeah. You know what? Read the Wikipedia on game theory. You'll learn a lot.
I'll just give an example. Let's think of one. All right, here's one. Ready? Let's say you're going down a road, right? And you have a choice, left or right. And there's no signs, there's no nothing. Your choice is just left or right, and you have no information whatsoever. Well, it doesn't matter which one you pick.
Yeah, in fact, you might as well remove that decision from the game. It's like in the old match game on TV where they'd ask the contestant, number 1 or number 2, and there's a different question behind each one. But because you don't know any information, and the decision is therefore completely arbitrary, it absolutely does not matter and has no effect on the universe whatsoever what decision you make.
Yep. Like, let's say there's a game where there are 3 different, hidden cards, and you get to pick one of the 3. Why even bother? Just have one stack of cards and make them draw the top card. Yeah, so good games are games that, when at all possible, identify and eliminate decisions like that. Decisions where there isn't actually a decision. Yep. And a tactical decision would be, all right, you can either pay 1 to buy this building or pay 3 to buy that different, better building. And it's like, oh, well, now you have to think. You have to think, is that building worth 3 times as much as that building, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And is what makes a good game.
Or I have 5 cards in my hand, 3 of them are blue or 1 of them is red. I can discard any number of cards and draw, and I know that there are 45 red cards and 39 blue cards in the deck. So I know my odds of getting the blue card I need to complete my set and win the game. Is it worth it to take the risk to discard the card versus playing the card on one of my buildings in order to put a Kerbloffle on the board?
Yep.
I wanted to use a completely meta, nonsensical example there, but you get my idea.
Mm-hmm.
A weighted decision is like a decision where you can calculate, like, I have a 55% chance of doing good with this decision. I have a 30% chance of doing twice as good if I am successful with this decision. And then based on that, deciding which one to do based on the actions of other players, how far ahead you are in the game, how long the game has left, stuff like that. Decisions that aren't completely arbitrary and where there is information. The information doesn't have to be total, but it has to be there in some form.
Mm-hmm. Even better is when your decision isn't, 30% chance this, 60% chance that. It's, the outcome of this decision, and the outcome of the other decision, and you just can't tell which of those 2 outcomes is preferable.
Or the outcomes of all your possible decisions, but across from you is a human being who has an equal but possibly asymmetric list of decisions. And you have information based on his stance on the board to make a guess as to what decision he would be likely to make. And his decision will have a great effect on your decision, but you end up deciding simultaneously.
I wonder if this is getting across at all.
I hope it is.
I hope so.
Well, I promise, whenever we feel like it, we're going to do a show on game theory. And when I say game theory, I mean practical game theory. We're not going to talk about the math.
We're not going to talk about economics.
Because I guarantee
game theory is actually economics.
I guarantee that none of you care at all about the math behind game theory.
Yeah.
I barely care about it, and I love game theory. But sometimes reading that theory just,
no good.
The numbers just, god damn it.
All right, so let's just end the show by talking about what makes a game fun.
Novelty is a big thing.
Novelty is pretty big.
A game that has novelty, either in individual play sessions or as a game as a whole, will always lend itself to being more fun. Games that have cool, complex pieces that actually have an effect on the game or actually represent something real in the game.
What was that game where you roll the dice in a big castle?
Oh, there's a bunch of games like that.
And there's the game Niagara where there's actually little boats that go down the river and fall off the edge, the Niagara Falls.
Yep.
That's pretty fun.
Or games like Railroad Tycoon, which, while the game itself is fun, it's not the greatest game in the world, but it has this massive board and all these pieces, and you get so much fun just building your railroad and managing your railroad that a lot of times, even if you're losing or the game went to shit, you don't even care because you're still having fun managing your railroad.
Yeah, I think one thing that definitely makes a game more fun is when you do things, when you have actions and you get something out of it. Like, if you, on a turn, spend some money and then build some stuff, that feels good. That's why RTS games are kind of fun.
Yeah.
Because you're building stuff. Even if you're not winning, as long as you're marching forward and you're doing things often and not spending a lot of time sitting around being bored, you're actively doing things all the time, that makes a game a lot of fun.
It's very much Railroad Tycoon versus Age of Steam. They're effectively the same game, except that Railroad Tycoon, you still have the ability to take action even when your loss is a foregone conclusion.
Yep.
So even though you cannot win, it is still, and I'm dead serious, it is still fun to continue playing the game until it ends. Age of Steam, the moment you fall behind by any appreciable amount, not only is the game not fun anymore, but the one time I played Age of Steam and I fell behind, it was one of the first times in my life where I decided that it was not worth it to me to spend my time to keep playing the game.
Yeah. I mean, there was no way to win, basically. There's no way that we could see.
Well, that game,
there was no way to take any fun actions, and you spent a lot of time doing nothing.
Now, I could have avoided that situation by being better at the game, but a game that is fun is such that no matter how badly you are doing, the game is still on some level entertaining enough to keep you playing and keep you engaged.
Yep. Now, I think the last thing that makes a game fun is when there's some sort of element of like bringing the players into the game, be it by role playing or humor. For example, when you play Settlers, right? A lot of the fun comes from going, "Hey, man, I got a wood. You got sheep?"
A joke about bestiality and erections.
Or like Apples to Apples, where you give someone all these cards, and then they go, Hitler. Ha ha ha.
Mahatma Gandhi. Nuclear weapons. Oh!
How could you do that? That's terrible, lol. When there is some sort of, human element brought into the game instead of just cold calculating pieces moving around a board, that makes the game very fun. That's why D&D is fun, even though it's not really a game in the...
D&D is a classic example of a game that is fun but not good.
Yeah.
It is good at what it is, and it is a good thing.
Well, role-playing games in general are very different. It really can't be good in the same way that board games can be good.
I think it's possible, but games like that tend to be role-playing games that involve military tactics.
That is too true.
Yes.
Yes, but no, role-playing games tend to concentrate on the fun and don't really care about... the mechanics aren't meant to be these fair, difficult, complex thought experiment, challenges. They're just there to support the fun of role-playing, and it's totally different. It shouldn't even be entered into this conversation.
Yeah. And I think we'll stop there just because, as always, we've gone long.
Woohoo!
I would just like to say, once again, and this is probably the only time in the history of time that we will ever do this, but Dig Podcasts is already the best podcast directory out there other than possibly iTunes, but a lot of you can't use iTunes.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do not use Dig, I recommend you use it because forget Podcast Alley and Podcast Pickle. Those things are all dead to me.
Yep. And, already yesterday we talked about this, and I figured everyone who listened to Geeknights used Dig, but apparently that's not true. And some people already told us that they started using Dig on our recommendation, and they can't imagine that they weren't using it before.
So join the Front Row Crew forums, then look at our usernames and join the Front Row Crew Dig clan that is slowly forming.
Yes, go to dig.com and get an account, and be
while you're
awesome.
there, if you like Geeknights, if you dig us, it'll make us more popular. And the more popular we are, the more swag you're going to get in the near future.
Yes, but do not feel obligated to dig us. We are not, begging for digs. We don't need them.
Yeah, in fact, we are
Desperately.
already very highly placed compared to many other podcasts on Dig as it is.
That's just because we're so hip and cool with this internet action that when a new bandwagon comes along, we are the first to jump on board.
Oh, yes. In fact, we are on such a bleeding edge that I better go get a Band-Aid. This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Odeo. Just click the link that says Send Me an Odeo on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.